Hello everybody, Wallas here. Today I want to show you how to handle and beat the Nightmare difficulty in Diablo 2 as a Sorceress, speaking of skills, gears, Mercenary, and some useful tips around that. If you haven't reached Nightmare yet though, feel free to check out my video on normal difficulty first. So, let's dive in. Before we get into skills and gear, there are two important things to consider in Nightmare. First, there is a 40% penalty to all your resistance, and this will increase to 100 in Hell. This will take some importance when choosing your gear if you don't want to be crushed by magic damage. Second, I want to speak about faster cast rate, which is the speed at which you can cast your spells. Many items will boost that stat and will stack to give your total faster cast rate. This will greatly influence your DPS as well as the speed at which you can teleport. Those two things will increase your survivability because if you can kill monsters faster, they will be less likely to kill you first, and if you can teleport faster, that means that you can get away from monsters faster. Now, Diablo 2 is an old game based on a 25 frame per second, so each percentage of faster cast rate will not necessarily be taken into account. You will need to reach what we call a breakpoint in order to actually cast the spells faster. Here's the table for the Sorceress. Most of her skills use the upper part of this chart, 0, 9, 20%, etc. And to complicate things, the skills Lightning and Chain Lightning use the lower chart. So for example, if you cast a Fireball with 20% faster cast rate equipped, you will cast 2 frames faster than a Sorceress with 0% faster cast rate. Basically, it reduces the time between each spell. Again, for Fireball, if you have 35% FCR, it's going to cast at the same speed as if you have 20. To effectively accelerate this, you need to reach the 37 breakpoint and so on. The same thing applies to the faster hit recovery, which you can see on a Spirit, for example, but instead of accelerating your spells, it accelerates the rate at which you can recover after being stunned by an attack, and you get stunned when a monster successfully hits you for more than 1/12 of your total HP. The faster you recover, the faster you can get away or cast another spell to crush your foe. This also explains why a big health pool is important in Diablo 2. So keep an eye on those two values. In Nightmare, going pure cold or pure lightning Sorceress is a viable option. There will be some monster immune to those spells, but none of which you can't skip or that your merc can't handle. The only places that you can struggle are the Ancients and Lister the Tormentor in the final wave of Baal's minion. Those two monsters can spawn as cold immune, but you can always reset the game to change that, so no worries here. As for Fire Sorceress, it's another story because Act 4 will literally be impossible to finish because of the immune monster in the Chaos Sanctuary, which you can't skip. So if you already run a Fire Sorceress and you only play solo, you'll either need to think about a secondary Cold or Lightning spell or completely reset your skills once you reach Act 4. My personal choice when it comes to secondary spell is Frozen Orb, which can do the job with only 1 point in the Ice Bolt synergy and 1 point in the Cold Mastery. Let's take a look at each three, starting with Fire. Fireball and Meteor are good choices. I personally tried Hydra and was doing okay, but despite it being a nice looking spell, I feel the DPS wasn't as high as Fireball. It was safer though. Points in the Fire Mastery are also really useful, and don't forget to put 1 point in Warmth no matter the type of source you're making. As for Cold Sorceress, pure Frozen Orb will be enough to beat Nightmare if you wish to go with that. Otherwise, Blizzard and Ice Blast will also work well. Now, 1 point in the Cold Mastery and 1 point in Frozen Armor will also be useful. Finally, Lightning or Chain Lightning Source using Charged Bolt for bosses will do the job nicely. Static Field is also a must pick for any Sorceress to greatly help with bosses. Here, just put points in Dexterity to be able to equip your gear. For Strength now, it depends. If you plan on doing a Skills and Attribute point reset in Hell difficulty, I would say to put the minimum in Strength to equip your gear as well. But if you don't plan a reset, just keep in mind the Runewords Spirit Shield, which require 156 Strength to equip. If we take my Sorceress as an example, to pass from 55 to 156 Strength, it will take around 21 level to achieve it, considering the 5 point per level. So plan your things in consequences, but you won't find this shield before Hell, so you have some time in front of you. The rest of your stats should go in Vitality and nothing in Energy, as your item should be enough to increase your mana pool. Now come the fun stuff. I will mostly talk about Runewords for this part of the video, as they are the only real item you can rely on each time you start fresh. Unique items can be very good, but you still need to drop them, and unfortunately, we can't really pay Andariel or Mephisto to get the loot we want. Sad thing. The first step will be to farm the Countess to get some runes, and she can drop up to the Rune Co in Nightmare. Keep in mind that the rune Yo, Loom, and Co have a lower percentage to drop though, so some rune word will still be harder or longer to farm the rune for. Let's start with the armor. First, we have Stealth here that will give you a nice 25% faster cast rate, 25% faster hit recovery, and some mana regeneration. This armor was good in normal and will be good in Nightmare too. You might want to upgrade the base though if you find a 2 open socket armor with a higher defense value than what you wear. Next, we have Smoke. Now this one might be harder to make because you need a Loom rune, but if you manage to do it, it's a very good defensive armor because of the plus 50 to all resistances, the faster hit recovery, and the plus 280 defense versus missile that will come very handy too. Again, you will need a 2 open socket armor, and just watch yourself as some of them has very high stat requirement, like for example this Wormhide here, which require 87 strength to equip. Following up, there is a rune word called Enlightenment, who seems to be a good choice for the Sorceress, considering the plus 2 to all skills, but for the cost of a pull rune, which by the way won't drop from the Countess in Nightmare, it's way too expensive and you don't even have any faster cast rate on it, so let this rune word die as it should be. Now on the unique side, if you are lucky, you might get your hands on a Doriel's Shell, which offer good resistances and cannot be frozen, which is always nice to have by the way. And if you are much more lucky, it is possible in Nightmare to drop a Skin of Viper Magi, which is one of the best in-slot armor for Sorceress with its big 30% faster cast rate and is bonus to all res. I wish you the best luck for this drop. As for weapons, if you are a Fire Sorceress, you can continue, if you already made it in normal, to use the rune word Leaf on a staff. The plus 2 skills are really good, but it is a two-handed weapon, so it prevents you from using a shield. So you'll need to choose between damage and defense here. The weapon that will be a game changer though is a Spirit Sword. I recommend doing it in a Crystal Sword, but any 4 open socket sword you can find and equip will do the job for now. Spirit is just a beast. It gives plus 2 to all skills, between 25 and 35% faster cast rate, a big chunk of faster hit recovery, and if you look down a bit, there is a nice bonus to mana. With that one equipped, we can now speak Shield. If you struggle hard to increase your resistances, Ancient Pledge could help a lot as you can see here. Other than that though, it got nothing else to show off. The second option is Rhyme, which still gives a 25% to all res, which is not bad at all. There is also some mana regen, cannot be frozen, and some magic find. Again, if you find a better base throughout your playthrough, you can upgrade the defense value and be a bit more tanky. Now if you don't need that much resistances, I think that the best option in Nightmare is Splendor if you got a Loom rune to spare. The good thing here is the plus 10 to faster cast rate as well as the plus 1 to all skill, and you still have some mana regen and magic find. As for unique shield, there are 2 main options. The first one is Wall of the Eyeless because of the plus 20 to faster cast rate, and the second one would be Lidless Wall, which is kind of the upgraded version of Wall of the Eyeless. 20 to faster cast rate, plus 1 to all skill, and a boost for your mana pool. Really interesting choice if you find one. Next thing on our list is the headpiece. Lore is a viable option in Nightmare as it's always useful to get a plus 1 to all skills, and it also has some good lightning resistances. I would say go with that if you have nothing else. But it's not that much of a game changer, so if you need some resistances and you find some rare helm with good res, you could totally swap it. As for Amulet and Rings, keep your eye open for those with faster cast rate. Now if it has some other perks like Magic Find, Resistances, plus to stats, life, or mana, it will be even better. I generally use those items to adjust my resistances if I'm too low somewhere. It's generally the same thing for gloves, belts, and boots. Use them to increase your res, get some stat point, or even some magic find. There is a chance that you find some Mage Fist glove, and that will for sure be excellent for any sorceress because of the plus 22 faster cast rate. Again, for faster cast rate, be sure to check your breakpoints because if you do not reach the next breakpoint by equipping a plus 10% faster cast ring, for example, it is of no use to equip it for the moment. With all those items in mind, you should be able to customize your character with a good amount of resistances, plus to skill, and a fair percentage of faster cast rate and faster hit recovery. Getting to hell shouldn't be too much of a problem. Since the release of patch 2.4, there have been a lot more interesting options in terms of Mercenary because of the big changes they make to their skills. But in my opinion, the best follower for Sorceress stays the Act 2 Merc, and in Nightmare you will gain access to the Holy Freeze Aura, which will literally freeze enemy around every few seconds. It's very good for the survivability of your little Sorceress. And let me know down in the comments if you find another good Mercenary setup for a Sorceress. Now the weapon you should consider is an Insight in a polearm. It will grant an aura, meditation, which will stack with Holy Freeze. This aura will insanely boost your mana recovery between plus 575% and plus 700%, depending on the level it rolls. You will need a 4-open socket polearm, and it can drop in Nightmare. But if you struggle to find one, let me redirect you to my video on the Sorceress in normal difficulty, and near the end of the video, I explain how to get this 4-open socket base using the larger quest in Act 5. As for the armor, look for anything with high defenses and some resistances, and if you can afford it, the Runewords smoke will do a really good job at maintaining your merc alive in Nightmare, which is the only thing that matters in the end because you don't want your merc to kill stuff, you want him to stay up and grant you the meditation aura. That's it. Now once you will get to a higher level, or if you're lucky and find a Lem rune in Nightmare, you will be able to make 3-3. One of the best armor for a mercenary, except for crazy thing like Fortitude, which is way too expensive to make anyway. 3-3 is a good fit for two reasons. First, it has 45% increased attack speed, and second, it has a 5% chance to proc level 15 Fade when struck. Fade is an assassin skill that gives a 60 bonus to all res and a 15% resist to physical damage for 288 seconds. Those bonuses will only apply to your merc, but it will become the tank you always wanted. For his helm, anything with good res or some damage reduction, like a rock stopper for example, will surely help. But if you can get a helm with a bit of life leech, like a Talrasha's crest, it will do a much better job at keeping him alive because he will heal himself on every attack. That's also the reason why attack speed is useful, because it will help his life leech. With all this gear, he shouldn't die too often. Now that we're done with the skills and gears, there are still some quests to be done. Most of the quests in Nightmare will be useful to do, except for the Horadric Cube, which you already have. For the 5th quest of Act 1 with Charcy, I recommend using it on gloves, belts, or boots. She can imbue some very nice items from time to time. Don't waste this quest on weapons, shield, armor, or elms, because you'll mostly end up with a rune word or unique in the slot anyway. Just a quick note for the 4th quest in Act 3, if you are looking for the missing book, it is always in the Runed Temple located in the Kurast Bazaar. Finally, before you start Hell, or if you have some difficulty progressing in Nightmare, you can start to farm Andariel or Mephisto right away. Those two bosses can drop really good stuff in Nightmare, and sometimes even one item can make the difference. That's it for this video guys, thanks to anyone who stopped by, and hopefully it will help you in some way in your playthrough. If you enjoyed this type of content, feel free to give it a like, and let me know how your passage to Nightmare goes in the comments section. Happy gaming everyone, ciao.